Welcome back to the Wrestling Rewind with your host, Max.
Vitamin J.
And we are here to break down what happened in December. So we'll just go ahead and go right into it. The first head-to-head happened on December 2nd, 1996. Nitro opens up the show with Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko welcoming us to the show. And while they're doing that, the Steiner brothers walk up and Rick Steiner challenges Sting to a match tonight to finish what they started last week.
And if you don't recall, what happened last week was Sting gave Rick Steiner the Scorpion Death Drop.
Don't put Sting's name in your mouth.
Yep, not this time.
But the first match tonight is Glacier versus Hardbody Harrison. And also, this is the debut of Hardbody Harrison. And the only thing you should know about him is that he was arrested. He is actually currently in jail for life for false imprisonment and trafficking women. He was arrested in 2005. And he was his own attorney for his case. Looks like he didn't do a good job. But that's really all you need to know here. And I think this is our first time seeing Glacier in about a month or so. I think Tony Schiavone said he was off training somewhere. But the match was only 1 minute and 2 seconds. Glacier wins with a cryonic kick. Nothing too exciting there. So we'll just move right on to the next thing. Nothing to really add to that. Unless you have thoughts on it.
I do not.
Well, let's see how you think about this next match they got. We got the Renegade and Joe Gomez versus the Amazing French Canadians with Colonel Robert Parker. Since this is another amazing matchup, I'm just going to go straight to the finish. This match was only 3 minutes and 16 seconds. The Amazing French Canadians win with their awesome tag team finishing move, which I can never remember the name. Quebecer Crash, thank you. So this was just a match between two teams that no one really cares about at this time. But luckily, it didn't take up too much time.
None of the people in this group will wrestle long into 97.
No, and the Renegade and Joe Gomez tag team was essentially, they both are long-haired men that have brown hair, so let's team them up together. That's essentially it. But after that match, we have a ramp interview with Arn Anderson. Arn says the perception of Hogan is that he can't be beaten, but Arn says he disproved that by beating him twice in a row. And he sure did. We actually covered that. It was earlier in 96. Arn says Hogan is human, and he watched Piper the other day, and he saw how tough Piper was and how he had no fear in his eyes when he was faced against the whole NWO. Arn asks Hogan, what is he going to do when it's just him and Piper in the ring? Arn says the Horsemen will be watching that match, and they'll be watching Piper's back, and he says the NWO will find that Charlotte, which is where Starrcade is going to be, will not be a real friendly place for the NWO. Definitely a pretty solid promo from Arn as usual.
It was a good promo.
While it was a good promo, the crowd didn't seem to care because they were chanting NWO, so clearly this is not Horseman country here.
Yeah, they like Arn, but they also like NWO more.
Yeah. So let's go over to Raw, and I'll provide you a Kurt Hennig update. We told you he was gone from the WWF, and he is, but what happened with that was he had a Lloyd's of London insurance policy. I'm not going to explain what that is. You can look it up if no one knows. So he was going to take a lump settlement, but the WWE contacted the Lloyd's of London company and essentially told them that he was planning on wrestling, and so they refused to pay him out. So he wasn't happy about it, so he no-showed the WWE Hall of Fame, Survivor Series, and Superstar tapings, which explains his abrupt absence and his soon departure to WCW. I feel like I had to add something because the first match tonight on Raw is Flash Funk versus The Goon. Vince McMahon here sees himself getting his ass handed to him in the ratings, and he decides to book the fucking Goon. It's just unbelievable. And not only that, this match is longer than it needs to be. It's 5 minutes and 55 seconds. We don't need to see The Goon that long. This should be a job match. This is Flash Funk's debut. How does it get him over to take 5 minutes and 55 seconds to beat this man? The answer is it doesn't.
If you watch this match, listen to the crowd because they're absolutely dead.
Yeah, as they should be. Who cares? But one funny thing during Flash Funk's entrance is that, of course, Flash Funk has the Funkettes, and they go to the announce table, start doing their dance thing, and Vince McMahon is just ridiculous.
Oh, I know that's right. Yes, sir. Oh, knock my socks off. My goodness. Whoa.
Vince and them don't even care about the match enough. They talk about Tiny Tim and the fact that he had recently passed away. The reason I mentioned him is because they had a brief interaction with Jerry Lawler in 1993.
Which I think they show a clip of that later in this show. But yeah, again, I'm not going to waste anyone's time with the Goon match. Flash Funk wins with the tumbleweed. But after the match, we go see footage from the WWF's tour in London that they did. They show us a brief clip of Stone Cold nailing Sycho Sid from behind with the WWF title. And then it cuts to a backstage interview with Austin. And he says he was almost a WWF champion, but everyone wants to get involved in Steve Austin's business. And the footage ends there, so we can cut to fake Diesel's entrance. Vince tells us we will see the rest of that overseas footage later tonight. And I'm just going to let you know, the footage from that is probably the most exciting thing on this show. So that tells you how bad this show is. But since we already mentioned that Diesel's coming out, we'll just go ahead and go to the second match for Raw. It is Fake Diesel versus Phineas Godwinn. JR on commentary tells us that Fake Diesel and Fake Razor Ramon have plans to win the WWF Tag Team titles at the next In Your House. And of course, we're all thinking to ourselves, nobody on the planet wants to see that, JR.
Nope.
But yes, they will be in a tag team title match. What do they do to deserve it? Nothing, but what else is new? But as this match is going on, we eventually see Fake Razor Ramon come out to ringside. Later in the match, Phineas goes for the slop drop, but Fake Razor Ramon hops on the apron, causing Phineas to let go of the hold, and Fake Diesel then struggles to jackknife Phineas, but he does so and wins the match. It was a very rough-looking jackknife. The match went 3 minutes and 43 seconds. But if you like me, my thoughts on this match after I get done is if you are watching Raw right now over at Nitro, something is wrong with you.
You'd be a fool. Even with how this Nitro so far is a little underwhelming as well, but it's still much more appealing than what's happening on Raw.
Absolutely.
I mean, because you get the Goon, and then next match you get Fake Diesel.
We'll wait till we get to the next match later. But first, we'll go back to Nitro, where we have our third match, and it is the Faces of Fear with Jimmy Hart versus Robert Gibson and Scotty Riggs. Why are these two teaming up? I don't know. I think this is the second time they teamed up, maybe, or maybe first. Either way, who cares?
Yeah, some of that.
But during this match, we go to a split screen so we can watch a recap of Bagwell joining the NWO from last week, and also the beatdown at the end of Nitro, or the NWO beating the Faces of Fear and Harlem Heat. And that should tell you all you need to know about this match is that they're doing the recaps during this match, because this match was mostly dominated by the Faces of Fear. But we do once again see their sick powerbomb spot, which woke the crowd up from these first two other matches that were job matches, essentially. But the match ends at the Barbarian hits the Kick of Fear on Robert Gibson for the win.
Yeah, so after the match, Riggs gets a chair and to attack the Faces of Fear. There was no need for that. Why did they need to get their heat back? These people were jobbers. Why? I don't get it.
Yeah, I was kind of confused by that as well.
It's not leading to a program, you know?
No, the Faces of Fear should be the ones that end the segment on top. But what do we know? We got to get Riggs over.
And why is he coming and attacking them with a chair? They're getting his ass kicked for 7 minutes.
But so far, this has been the best match on Nitro. Not that that's a high bar to clear, but it is. We'll go ahead and move on. After the match, we see footage of a Chris Benoit versus Kevin Sullivan match from November 23rd at a house show in Baltimore, where the Dungeon of Doom attacked Benoit when the match, of course, went to one of the bathrooms, as they do in their matches. They brought Benoit back to the ring to continue beating the shit out of him, and then Woman comes out and goes after Sullivan, but the two are separated, and before Sullivan leaves, he stomps on Benoit a few more times. But the reason we show that is because the next match here is Kevin Sullivan versus KC Sunshine. Who is KC Sunshine? I don't think it matters. Job guy. But for the match, Sullivan goes right after Mr. Sunshine here. He takes him to the outside, starts beating him up aggressively. He gets him back into the ring, does his trio woe spot, and hits the double stomp for the win. That's all you need to know. Took 2 minutes and 1 second. The announcers didn't even know the damn name of the jobber. I had to look it up. They actually made a point on commentary to say they didn't know his name. So just a job match for Sullivan to get him over, to make you want to see another match between him and Benoit. If you're one of the sick people that want to see that again, I don't. But this leads into an in-ring interview with Kevin Sullivan afterwards. Sullivan says he hurt Benoit physically, but Benoit hurt him mentally and hurt his heart. Of course, talking about taking Woman away from him. And then Sullivan moves on to tell Benoit a story. And he says sometimes that sweetness rubs off, and he doesn't care if he digs his own graves because one of them will be buried, and the equation now equals 3. If you could follow Sullivan's promos, you are a smarter man than me. The crypticness from Sullivan is just enough for me. But since we did 2 matches on Raw already, let's just go ahead and go to the 5th match for Nitro. It is Billy Kidman versus Dean Malenko Cruiserweight title match. I don't know if I've ever seen Billy Kidman win a match yet, but he is somehow in the Cruiserweight title match.
He has not won yet.
So we're just throwing title shots out.
Well, WCW throwing title shots around for no reason. Remember, Greg Valentine got a title shot.
But for this match, Sonny Ono comes out once again to take some pictures with a Polaroid camera, presumably to scout the match once again. At one point, Ono tries to cheat by flashing the camera in Dean Malenko's face, but it's not very effective. Kidman goes for his shooting star press, Dean Malenko's able to get the knees up.
Yeah, not a great looking star press from Kidman.
Nope. If you've ever seen Kidman do a star press, it's very inconsistent. Sometimes he hit it beautifully. Sometimes it looks like dog shit. But Malenko puts Kidman in the Texas Cloverleaf for the win in 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Quick match to make Malenko look dominant. Kidman got a little bit of offense in, but nothing too impressive. So far, pretty jobberific matches on Nitro. Let's see what Raw has. But before we go into the third match for Raw, we do have an interview with Shawn Michaels. He is wearing an ugly striped shirt, but he tells us that last week he let his emotions get to him. But he says he will come through at the Royal Rumble and win his title back, whether anybody likes it or not, and he will always come out and speak the truth. Shawn again says that he doesn't mind the boos because no one can deny he puts on the best show. And he says he may not be your typical role model, but what are you going to do about it? Starting to get that little bit more of a edge to him. I don't care about being the white meat babyface anymore kind of stuff. But Shawn continues on. He says whether or not Bret Hart or Sycho Sid like it, he will continue being Mr. Emotional and throw it in their face every chance he gets. I didn't really care for this promo from him. He spent half of it complaining about people who didn't like him. It sounds more just like he's whining.
Shawn Michaels is going to spend most of the rest of this year in 97 complaining about something.
So, yeah, I don't know. This wasn't for me. I didn't care for this.
No, not his best promo.
But our third match, we got another fantastic match here. Jesse James versus Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Phenomenal booking here today, Vince. I mean, this is just great stuff. But we open up the match with Jesse James hitting a clothesline and some drop kicks on Bradshaw. But Bradshaw turns the match into his favor with a big boot. Jesse James is able to make a comeback later on. But at the end of the match, Zebekiah grabs Jesse James's leg, and this allows Bradshaw to hit James with the clothesline from hell for the win. The match took 5 minutes and 58 seconds. After the match, Bradshaw and Zebekiah branded Jesse James on the arm. Which, again, this branding stuff is just so stupid when it's just a stamp on the arm.
Yeah, it's just a stamp. You as the opponent have to feel really stupid to sell it as if it hurts, you know?
I agree. But yes, so far, 3 matches, 3 horrible matchups. And this one so far has been the best matchup of the 3. That's saying something. But let's go back to Nitro where we get our 6th match of the night. And it is Big Bubba with Jimmy Hart versus Jeff Jarrett. During the match, Jeff Jarrett stomps on Jimmy Hart's fingers on the apron, but later on, Jimmy Hart repays the favor by choking him later in the match while Bubba is distracting the ref. But Jarrett gets a little fed up with Jimmy Hart throughout this match, and so he slides out of the ring and he threatens to hit Jimmy Hart, but Bubba stops him from doing so, and Jimmy Hart grabs Jarrett so that Bubba can punch him, but Jarrett moves out of the way and Bubba accidentally punches Jimmy Hart. So Hart decides to toss the megaphone into the ring, and Bubba goes to hit Jarrett with it, but Jarrett dodges it and hits a dropkick, actually a nice-looking dropkick, that sends the megaphone into Bubba's head for the win. We've had the same exact finish in this same match between these two before, so not very creative.
It was the exact same finish.
Again, not very creative, but still, this might be one of the better matches so far up to this point on both shows, which is not very impressive. But then after that, we get an in-ring promo with the Steiner brothers. Rick Steiner once again calls out Sting. And then we see Sting appear in the rafters. And Rick Steiner tells Sting that instead of attacking him from behind, he should come down to face him one-on-one. And he asks Sting if he was going to do something about it tonight. And Sting just sort of nods his head yes. And the segment ends. So I guess it just means, yeah, I'll see you later, pal. So we'll see if Sting has his match. But I think this is a good hook to keep you on this channel versus Raw. Yeah. I mean, Raw's doing a good enough job telling you to stay on Nitro anyway. But
well, yeah, the fact that you might see Sting wrestle a match is more than enough hook to not watch Justin Hawk Bradshaw versus Jesse James.
At least Nitro's doing something right here. But then after that, we have an NWO segment. Most of the members of the NWO come out, except for like Hogan and the Giant. They come out and they storm the announce booth, chasing away Bobby Heenan and Mike Tenay. And it appears that they will be taking over commentary now. Bischoff says that they weren't going to miss the show tonight with Sting being here. And he tells us that what they did to Piper at the contract signing at World War III, they were just trying to protect Piper from himself. And Piper doesn't want any of Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Then we go into some footage of Hogan beating Vader at last year's Slamboree. And Bischoff even calls Vader a fat tub of goo. Clearly, he's still upset that Vader left.
He's highly upset.
Yeah, he just had to get that shot in there. And then after the footage ends, Bischoff and crew, they stay on commentary for the next match. So the NWO will be commentating here for the next few matches, maybe in the rest of the night. So we'll go into our 7th match for Nitro. It is Dave Taylor versus Eddie Guerrero. And as this match gets underway, Bischoff tells us that there are WCW wrestlers en masse that are trying to convert their contracts over to the NWO. And he names some wrestlers that he thinks would make some good members of the NWO. And these include Eddie Guerrero, Conan, Regal, and Dave Taylor. And to my knowledge, only one of those four joins them. Before this match, Dave Taylor starts the match with some European uppercuts, but Eddie hits a jumping head scissors and shortly follows it up with a frog splash for the win. And Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in particular like that frog splash. They called it sweet.
No, that was a good frog splash. I mean, it's Eddie Guerrero, so of course, but it just needed to be said.
That's right. This match took 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So far, a whole lot of job matches. Nitro's been pretty much filled with those lately. But before we go to commercial, Hall on commentary tells the production crew to go ahead and cue that porno music, and he says porno music.
Yeah, he loves calling the NWO music the porno music.
I guess,
I mean, it kind of. I see where he's coming from.
Yeah, I kind of see it. But let's go ahead and go back to Raw, where we then see the rest of the footage from the overseas tour in London. We last saw Stone Cold hitting Sid with the title belts, and now we're picking up from that point. So later on, we see the British Bulldog come out, and he attacks Stone Cold, causing a disqualification. Sid doesn't like the match ending in a disqualification, so he kicks the Bulldog in the stomach, and he goes for the powerbomb. But Bret Hart comes out, and he pulls the Bulldog out of the ring, and Bret gets into the ring, and Sid goes ahead and chokeslams him. He has to dish out his anger on somebody. So yeah, a lot going on in the overseas tour. I would like if some of that actually happened on Raw. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But we do see some footage of all four of the members that participated in that segment backstage. Stone Cold says pretty much the same thing we saw earlier. We cut the British Bulldog. He tells us he didn't attack Stone Cold to help Bret Hart. He did it for himself. And then Owen comes up to the Bulldog and tells him not to worry about Bret or Stone Cold because they had to focus on their tag team title match at In Your House against Razor Ramon and Diesel. I don't think he had to focus that hard. It should be an easy win. We then cut to Bret Hart's part. He tells Bulldog that all he did was return the favor because remember Bulldog saved Bret Hart from getting his ankle smashed by Stone Cold. Bret Hart tells Stone Cold that he will see him down the road, and the only thing that matters to him right now is the title match with Sycho Sid at In Your House. And then we cut to Sycho Sid. Sid says he doesn't know why everyone is sticking their nose in his business, and he tells Bret and Shawn Michaels that there is no place for them in his match, and he is the champion, and that means he is the master and ruler of the world. Again, this whole recap of the overseas promo is the best thing on the show.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. We won't go into the main event just yet because we got some stuff on Nitro to take care of. So we'll go into the 8th match of Nitro, and it is Arn Anderson versus Jim Powers with Teddy Long. I know we mentioned last time that Jim Powers had a match, and Teddy Long didn't come out with him. We thought this might have been the end of their association. It is not. But for the match, Jim Powers got in some quick offense, but Arn ends it with a smooth-looking DDT in 3 minutes and 8 seconds. And that's essentially all the analysis you got there. The only thing that's enjoyable, really, besides the DDT, is you get to hear the outsiders on commentary. They're actually pretty good on commentary. But let's go ahead and go into our 9th match. Nitro has a ton of matches today. It is Chris Benoit versus Steven Regal for the U.S. title tournament. And this week, Benoit comes out without woman. But to start this match, we get some chain wrestling. And Regal does something in this match that I didn't know that he could do. And he did a kip-up.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well.
And Regal also gets busted open early on in this match.
It happens again. Both Benoit and Regal matches have Regal getting busted up, and then the camera has to fade away because they have a no blood on TV rule.
So yet again, we get blood during a Benoit Regal match. We stay on a wide shot afterwards. Because
Scott Hall gets mad on commentary about the wide shot. He keeps telling the cameraman to get rid of the wide angle and zoom in on like Big Girl Benoit, which is really funny.
I mean, he's right. Let's just see it.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't because they can't show blood. But later on in the match, we see Benoit hit a flying headbutt. A little bit later in the match, Regal rolls out of the ring. So Benoit decides to do a dive onto Regal, but Regal moves out of the way. I think there was a match earlier in maybe 96 where that happened and Benoit got counted out. Doesn't get counted out this time. Benoit gets into the ring. Regal then hits a butterfly suplex from the top rope for a 2 count. Later on, Benoit is able to hit a release German suplex and win the match with a dragon suplex. But this match was by far the best match of the night. This match took 6 minutes and 26 seconds, so not too long. Both men were abusing each other in the ring, and it was interesting visual to see the match from a wide angle.
Yeah, it was interesting.
But after the match, we get a ramp interview with Arn Anderson, Mongo McMichael, Chris Benoit, and Deborah. Arn says the 4 Horsemen are rededicating themselves to the WCW, And he then asks the group where Woman is, and Benoit says she is doing horseman business. Arn retorts that if she was doing horseman business, she would be here. Arn's not playing games.
Nope.
Benoit tells Arn Anderson that Woman is a horseman through and through. Mongo gives Benoit some advice, and he says that he was on a team that should have been a dynasty. And he says it wasn't a dynasty because of dissension within the team. And that's actually true. A lot of people say that about the Bears during that time. But Deborah interrupts them talking, and she goes on a long rant. But the point of it is she tells Benoit to straighten it out and get Woman back on board here. Arn tells Benoit that he was handpicked to be a horseman. And if Benoit gives him his word, then that's all he needs. And they shake hands and the promo ends. This was a decent promo, but again, this is kind of this whole rededicating themselves to WCW. I feel like this is a second or third time we've kind of done that, and then we just never actually do that. So I'm getting kind of tired of the Horsemen saying, all right, we're going to focus on ourselves and focus on the Horsemen and be a team and all that, and then they never do. But let's go to our 10th match on Nitro. We have Rocco Rock with Johnny Grunge versus Lex Luger. On commentary, Hall and Nash rip into Lex Luger, and Bischoff takes a stab at ECW when he starts talking about companies the NWO should buy. And so Bischoff mentions ECW, and Hall responds by asking who? And Bischoff says he could probably buy it for about $3, and I actually thought those were pretty funny.
It was funny. Scott Hall ends up in ECW for a little bit.
Yep. But for this match, Luger easily military presses Rocco Rock, and Rocco Rock's not a small man, so that was very impressive.
Especially not at this point.
No. And then shortly after that, Luger pokes Rocco Rock in the torture rack and wins the match in 3 minutes and 56 seconds. And then afterwards, Johnny Grunge comes into the ring and Luger throws Rocco Rock into Grunge, and then he poses for the fans. And Nash on commentary says, it should be criminal to look that good. But we're now on to the main event. So let's go ahead and go to Raw. And the main event for them tonight is going to be Mark Romero and Jake the Snake, and Sable's with them as well, versus Billy Gunn and Triple H. During this match, we get a backstage promo from Jesse James, who tells Bradshaw and Zebekiah that next week he is labeling both of them as wanted men, and he would take both of them on in a handicap match next week. When he said that, I was like, Vince, are you trying not to get people to watch Raw? Because I don't get it. This is what you advertise for next week? Jesse James versus Bradshaw and Zebekiah? Who the fuck cares?
Hell yeah. There's one person out there that cares. One person.
The only people who care are Jesse James, Bradshaw, and Zebekiah because they get paid. That's all. But early on in the match, the faces control the match. Jake goes for the DDT, but Billy Gunn is able to get out of it. And before we go to commercial, the heels have control of the match. And then after commercial, Jake does hit the DDT on Billy Gunn, and he gets a hot tag to Mark Romero. And during this time, the heels have some miscommunication as Helmsley bumps into Billy Gunn twice accidentally. And this leads to the two men having an argument, and Billy Gunn leaves the match. He really doesn't like getting bumped into. Bart Gunn has bumped into him a few times in the past few months. He's tired of it, so he's gone. This leaves Helmsley all alone, and Mero hits the Wild Thing for the win. And then afterwards, Jake brings out the Snake Revelations, and that scares Hunter Hearst Helmsley away. And I believe this could be Jake's final match for the WWF.
It is. This is last match on Raw, at least.
All right, so there you go. Last match for Jake the Snake. This was a pretty boring match, but that is the end of Raw. Not a good episode at all of Raw. This is up there with that Salvatore Sincere versus Undertaker main event Raw
Yeah, it's awful.
as one of the worst Raws we've seen so far.
It's unwatchable.
Yeah, there's almost nothing. There's actually nothing that I would ever go back and watch on this Raw. There's nothing that's worth going back to.
No.
But so far, Nitro hasn't been that good either. So you would think WWF could somehow sneak a win here and there. But nah, WWF did not step up to the plate here. Very disappointing. When the best stuff happened overseas, that tells you. I mean, that's really damning of your product at this point. But we will go over to Nitro for their main event. And this is supposed to be Rick Steiner versus Sting. We'll see if we get it. So the Steiners come out and they wait for Sting to make his arrival. Sting obliges. He comes through the crowd. The NWO on commentary tells us that Sting is NWO for life. They've already had it decided. Sting is in the NWO. Sting gets into the ring and he throws his bat down to the middle of the ring and he turns his back to Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner fails the test and he nails Sting with a forearm from behind. This sends Sting to the outside. Scott Steiner helps Sting back into the ring and Rick Steiner goes for the Steiner liner, but he misses and Sting is able to hit the Scorpion Death Drop. Sting then picks up the baseball bat and Scott Steiner helps pick his brother back up. Sting repeats what he did with Luger a few weeks ago. He puts the bat in the center of Rick Steiner's chest, pushes him away with it, and then hands him the bat. Rick Steiner looks like he's about to hit Sting with the bat, but Scott Steiner gets in the way, and he takes the bat from Rick, and he tosses it to the ground, and Sting turns around, grabs the bat, and leaves. He walks up the ramp, and he turns to the NWO on commentary, and he points the bat at them, and the outsiders ask, what's up with that? They're not quite understanding what Sting's meaning. And then Sting leaves through the crowd, and Scott Hall tells Bischoff to go ahead and send Sting that NWO contract, and the show ends with Sting walking away. So we didn't get a match. I think we all knew we were not going to get a match. So no surprise there. I like that Sting's motives at this point remain unclear. And this is sort of his first act of defiance against the NWO, kind of signaling, hey, I'm coming for you. Not the hottest ending, but didn't need to be with how much Raw stinks on the other channel. So I think it's clear and obvious that Nitro...
Yeah, this is easy. The stuff with Sting is enough to win the week.
I would actually go back and watch the Sting segments. Again, like we said, we wouldn't even go back and watch Raw. Wouldn't even bother. This is kind of 2 subpar Nitros in a row, and it's no coincidence that these shows haven't involved Hogan, Macho Man, or Ric Flair, really, so kind of missing some big names. But yeah, Nitro wins yet again. We know Nitro wins the ratings, but what was the rating?
This will be the 23rd week, 3.4 to 2.3.
Yep, so big difference there. No surprise. Easy dub for Nitro.